Imagine waking up one day and realizing your smartphone is missing. No quick check of social media, no instant access to messages, and no maps to guide you through the day. Could you handle it? Could any of us? In today's world, our smartphones have become more than just gadgets. They're our lifelines, our constant companions, and often, our crutch. But have you ever wondered what life would be like without them? Today, we're diving deep into this question. Can you truly live without your smartphone? Let's explore together.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of English Fluency Mastery. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm here with Hazel. How's it going, Hazel?
Hey Alex. I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about today's topic. We're diving into something that I think affects almost every single one of us, our smartphones. We rely on them for everything these days, but have you ever wondered? Could you live without your smartphone?
That's a big question, Hazel. It's almost like asking if you could live without electricity or running water. Our phones have become such an integral part of our lives, haven't they? But today, we're going to explore what life might be like without them.
Exactly. We're going to look at the pros and cons of smartphone use, how they've changed the way we live, and even challenge you to imagine a day, or maybe even a week, without your phone. Can you handle it? Stick around, because we're about to get into it.
The role of smartphones in our lives. Let's start by talking about how much we rely on our smartphones. Hazel, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I'm almost embarrassed to admit it, but the first thing I do is reach for my phone. I check the time, look at my messages, and maybe scroll through social media for a few minutes. It's like my phone is an extension of my hand.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Our phones have become our alarm clocks, our calendars, our cameras, and even our wallets. It's amazing how much they can do.
Definitely. But while it's convenient, it also means we're constantly connected and, in a way, always on. Do you ever feel like you're glued to your phone, Alex?
Oh, for sure. It's hard to disconnect, especially when everything, from work emails to social plans, comes through that little device. But I've also noticed that when I spend too much time on my phone, I feel more stressed and less focused.
That's a great point. Smartphones give us instant access to information and people, but they can also lead to information overload and stress. We're constantly bombarded with notifications, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Exactly. So, while our phones have their perks, they also come with downsides. But what would life be like without them? Let's take a trip down memory lane to a time before smartphones existed. Quiz time. What percentage of people check their phones within 5 minutes of waking up? A. 20%. B. 50%. C. 80%. D. 90%. Comment below with your answer, and we'll reveal the correct answer at the end of the video.
Do you remember what life was like before smartphones, Alex? How did we even survive?
Life before smartphones. It's funny to think about, but we did survive, maybe even thrived in some ways. We had landline phones, computers, and of course, face-to-face conversations. We made plans ahead of time, and if you weren't home, people would leave a message on your answering machine.
Right. And if you got lost, you'd either ask for directions or use a paper map. It was a different pace of life. You weren't expected to be available 24/7, and I think that gave people more freedom to focus on the present moment.
There's something to be said for that. Without the constant pings and notifications, you could really disconnect and relax. But it wasn't all rosy, was it?
No, there were challenges too. Communication wasn't as instant. If you needed to get in touch with someone urgently, you were out of luck if they weren't home. And let's not forget how difficult it was to stay in touch with people who lived far away. Long-distance calls were expensive.
True. And information wasn't as readily available either. If you wanted to know something, you had to look it up in a book or wait for the news. Now, we have all that information at our fingertips.
So, in some ways, smartphones have made our lives easier. But they've also created new challenges. Let's explore those a bit more.
The pros and cons of smartphones. Let's break it down. What are some of the biggest benefits of having a smartphone?
Well, for starters, they've revolutionized communication. You can connect with anyone, anywhere, at any time. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Absolutely. They've also made our lives more convenient. Need to order food? There's an app for that. Want to listen to music? Stream it on your phone. Even things like banking and shopping can be done with just a few taps.
And let's not forget the access to information. If you have a question, you can find the answer in seconds. It's like having a library in your pocket.
Those are some great points. But what about the downsides? We touched on a few earlier, but let's go deeper.
One big downside is the impact on our attention spans. It's so easy to get distracted by our phones. You might start with the intention of checking one thing, and before you know it, you've spent an hour scrolling through social media.
That's so true. And there's the issue of social isolation. Even though we're more connected than ever, studies show that people are feeling lonelier. It's like we're substituting real, meaningful interactions with superficial online ones.
And let's not forget the physical effects. Too much screen time can lead to eye strain, poor posture, and even sleep problems.
Right. So, while smartphones have a lot of benefits, they also come with some significant drawbacks. Which brings us to the big question, could we live without them?
So, Alex, let's say you had to give up your smartphone for a week. How do you think you'd cope?
Could you live without your smartphone? Honestly, I think it would be tough at first. I rely on my phone for so many things, navigation, staying in touch with people, even just passing the time. But I also think it could be really refreshing.
I agree. It would definitely be an adjustment, but it might also help us reconnect with the world around us. Instead of looking down at our screens, we'd be more present in the moment.
And it could be a chance to reconnect with ourselves too. Without the constant distractions, we might find more time for reflection, hobbies, or even just getting outside and enjoying nature.
Absolutely. But it's also important to recognize that for some people, living without a smartphone isn't just a choice, it's a reality. Not everyone has access to this technology, and they find other ways to live fulfilling lives.
That's a great point. And it makes you wonder, are we really as dependent on our phones as we think we are? Or could we find new ways to navigate the world without them?
Maybe it's about finding a balance. We don't have to give up our smartphones entirely, but we can make an effort to use them more mindfully. That way, we can enjoy the benefits without getting too caught up in the downsides.
That sounds like a good approach. So, how about we challenge our listeners? Try going a day, or even just a few hours, without your smartphone. See how it feels, and let us know how you get on.
I love that idea. It's a small step, but it could make a big difference. And who knows? You might discover a new hobby, have a great conversation, or just enjoy a bit of peace and quiet.
Practical tips for reducing smartphone use. Before we wrap up, let's share some practical tips for reducing smartphone use. What's worked for you, Hazel?
One thing that's helped me is setting specific times of day when I check my phone. For example, I try not to look at it first thing in the morning or right before bed. That way, I start and end my day without distractions.
That's a great tip. I've also found that turning off non-essential notifications helps. It reduces the temptation to constantly check my phone, and I find I'm less stressed as a result.
Another tip is to designate certain areas of your home as phone-free zones. For example, you could decide not to use your phone at the dinner table or in the bedroom.
And don't forget about the power of physical activity. Going for a walk or doing some exercise is a great way to take a break from screens and clear your mind.
Yes. And finally, consider setting some app limits. Most smartphones have features that allow you to limit your time on certain apps. It can be a good way to become more aware of your usage and make changes if needed.
Those are all excellent suggestions. Remember, it's not about giving up your phone entirely, it's about finding a balance that works for you.
So, what do you think, Alex? After talking through all this, do you think you could give up your smartphone, even just for a day?
Reflecting on the challenge. I think I could. It wouldn't be easy, but I'm curious to see how it might change my daily routine. Maybe I'd discover new things about myself, or just enjoy a little more peace and quiet. What about you, Hazel?
I think I'd like to try it too. It would be nice to see how much more present I could be without my phone constantly buzzing. And who knows, I might even pick up a new hobby or spend more quality time with the people around me.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance and not letting our phones control us. We often forget that we have the power to decide how and when we use our devices.
And it's about creating boundaries that help us live more intentionally. Maybe after this episode, we can both commit to a phone-free day and share our experiences in the next podcast.
I'm up for the challenge. And we'd love to hear from our listeners too. If you decide to try a phone-free day, let us know how it goes. Did you find it liberating, or was it harder than you thought? Share your stories with us.
Yes, we'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. You can reach out to us on our social media, or, if you're going phone-free, maybe write us an old-fashioned letter. Just kidding, but seriously, we do want to hear from you.
So, to wrap things up, can we live without our smartphones? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is for sure, being more mindful about how we use them can definitely improve our lives. It's all about balance, awareness, and making conscious choices.
Well said, Alex. And with that, we're going to sign off for today. Remember, your smartphone is a tool, not a master. Take control, set boundaries, and enjoy the moments that life brings, both with and without your phone. The correct answer of quiz is C, 80%. According to various studies, around 80% of people check their phones within 5 minutes of waking up. This habit can lead to a range of negative effects, including increased stress and anxiety, decreased productivity, poor sleep quality, negative impacts on mental and physical health. By being aware of this habit, we can start to break free from our phone dependence and develop healthier morning routines.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, take care and maybe try disconnecting for a bit. You might be surprised at how good it feels.
Bye for now, and don't forget to let us know how your smartphone challenge goes. We're excited to hear from you.
And as always, don't forget to subscribe to Learn and Speak for more engaging conversations and tips on mastering English. See you next time.
See you soon.